Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there, welcome back.
Please do subscribe, guys. Both channels, Evolutionary Energy Arts and also to EEARTS. Each one does have unique videos. We've been going down some rabbit holes, so to speak. And as soon as you open up one, you find two more. It's just the way it is. There's going to be we have quite a few videos lined up for you guys. Uncovering our history. It's not what you were told. It's not what you're told remotely. Not even close. Everything we memorized is just a bunch of bunk.
Well, it's helpful for the controllers, though. You know, they're very, very happy to provide textbooks and consequences if you don't learn what they want you to learn to help make their lives better.
Exactly. Oh, I just want to bring this up to you guys. Again, we were talking about California as an island. Yes, California as an island. So what we're going to give you today is, maybe some of you have heard of this, but, I think it's going to blow a lot of minds probably. It kind of should, because, again, it's pointing to the fact that people got around in the past. People got around this globe. Yes, and we don't need the flat earth comments because, that just basically distracts. And unfortunately, I think that's the whole purpose of it. That's the entire purpose, is just a distraction to get people away from discovering what really happened and what is still happening. So we were talking about California as an island. Could it be that sometime maybe 300 years ago or thereabouts, California actually impacted the rest of the United States and North America and became attached? But perhaps before that, it was truly an island, or was it just simply a lack of knowledge, a lack of understanding? What was it? So this guy is a Jesuit priest who was one of the first ones to come over here from Europe and do some exploring and some, basically, converting. Let's just say converting the savages, quote unquote,
Yes.
The terms that they used, to Christendom. And again, it's always about re-education, so to speak.
Right. They just want to show people the way and the right way to do everything and put them in a mindset so that they, again, do what they want them to do. And it's really something that obviously it's still going on to this day, but, it's not as out in the open as it used to be. I mean, they would just come in and pillage and do what they did and say, well, this is, we're only doing this to them because they're savages and they're going to burn in hell for eternity. Really, let's turn that table. Who's the savage?
And let us not be savages. No. Let us truly be showing compassion and love to all as much as we can in this life in which we're always pitted against each other. So Father Eusebio Francisco Kino was born in the valley of Nannsberg in the Austrian province of Tyrol, but he spent most of his adult life living in the borderlands claimed by a Spanish king. Kino was well educated at a time when many could not read or write. He studied at the University of Ingolstadt and Freiburg, where he showed an aptitude for mathematics, although offered a professorship in mathematics at the University of Ingolstadt. Kino had already made his decision about his life. In 1665, he joined the Jesuits in order to become a missionary, as did one of his relatives. He hoped to go to China, but instead got sent to Mexico, though he stayed there only a short time. Now, California. Spain claimed present-day California, but had been unable to do much in the way of securing the land. The conquest of the Philippines in the 1560s had paved the way for a Pacific Ocean trade between Mexico and Manila. The ocean route to the Philippines skirted the California coast because of currents. Okay, so it skirted the California coast, right? And we're talking 1560s. This is what they're telling us anyway. If it skirted the California coast, Didn't they have an idea whether it was an island or not, or just a peninsula? Just saying. So it skirted the California coast because of currents, and therefore Spain looked for a harbor there as a way of making the voyage shorter and thus healthier. Both the English and Dutch pirates also sailed this coast, hoping to pick off heavily laden Spanish ships. So a safe harbor would be welcome. California itself offered a pearl fishery for the crown to grant private patentees to exploit. Yes, always about the exploitation. Unfortunately, Spaniards had alienated the Indian tribes living there. By 1678, there was as of yet no permanent Spanish settlements in California. That year, the Crown was willing to grant the rights to try again. The spiritual responsibilities for the enterprise fell to the Jesuits, and Father Kino became one of 2 missionaries to California. His mathematical abilities also made him a royal astronomer, surveyor, and mapmaker. The expedition sailed in 1683, what's now part of Baja California, in Mexico. For the next 2 years, Kino and various others explored the region, making frequent reports. In 1685, the whole enterprise was dropped. Father Kino was sent to the area known as Primera Alta, now northern Sonoma, Mexico, and southern Arizona. His work there began in March 1687, was wholly concerned about living and traveling among the mainly Yuma and Pima Indians. There were no European settlers initially. He explored, built a mission, and attended to his religious duties, moving beyond the last mission at the town of Cucurpe. He founded the mission of Nuestra Senora de los Dolores. Here he would stay for almost 25 years. From his outpost, he established new missions, pushing north to the Gila, or the Gila, and Colorado rivers. In April 1700, he founded the first mission within the present state of Arizona, San Xavier del Bec, now Tucson. He did more than just direct the establishment of missions. His explorations confirmed that California was a peninsula and not an island. It could therefore be reached and explored by land, and that's what he did. So that was the main thing. So wanted to get you this timeline again, because, again, 1700, that's that year of that great Cascadian quake. So he was down basically in Sonora and in Arizona when perhaps the quake came. Now, maybe the quake was off a little bit. Maybe our dating's off a little bit. But it's all just fascinating. As you see, he's actually been made a saint. This is another depiction of him. There's the missionary. And this is interesting. That's his bones in there. They have his bones. Again, he's been sainted. Another depiction of him. We go down farther, and we will see his skull being examined. That was back in 1966. The Southwest. The Southwest is full of mysteries and history. Again, as we look at some of the historic buildings and all, and we think about the past. Now, one of the things that maybe you have heard of or maybe you haven't heard of was the people that were known to inhabit California. And the island, and it was referenced as an island from these legends too. California Island was ruled by a queen. Yes, Queen Califia. Califia's island. And she's very, very much Amazonian. And the other thing too is she appears, and it is given in histories that there's a connection to the Moors or Moorish people whom we associate with North Africa. But then there's other associations too that are very, very interesting. We look at the depiction of these two kind of Amazonian warriors, and each one of them only has one side of their chest covered, which again goes back to La Liberté. It goes back to a lot of very, very Masonic and secret society connotations. There's a lot hidden here. One of the things that's interesting is those aren't dogs. Those aren't birds. Those are griffins. Now, griffins have an association with Tartaria. We see griffins in many depictions. This is just, another massive rabbit hole to go down. And why do we call Amazons Amazons? And again, so much of it comes to us from the Greeks, which again, perhaps the Greek system was one of the first systems that was put in place that we recognize in our history that was truly completely given to us by the controllers, because it ended up being Greco-Roman civilization. The Greek gods became the Roman gods. But really, to me, I see all this being basically the draconian Anunnaki control grid and retelling history from that perspective.
Mm-hmm. They definitely want to do everything they can to cover the energy that many women could carry. And during certain times, women could carry some pretty fierce energies that were very, very far reaching. So when I took a look at her energy, the first word that came was Naga. And I don't know if anyone of you are familiar with Nagas. No, she's not a Naga, but that energy that commands a lot of respect, someone very intelligent, someone you just do not cross. You do not cross them. Somebody who is a protector of a degree that, is really unfathomable when we look at, how things are today. So her energy was very far reaching, and it's also along the lines of Isis Aset, and it's also along the lines of White Buffalo Calf Woman. The other thing that I saw when I looked at her was a celestial being. Now, I don't know if it's her actually that was from the stars, or was it her parents, but there's definitely a close connection to the stars with this person, this woman.
Yeah, again, everything is so distorted. So there's records and mention of encountering people that you would expect to encounter in Africa. Again, this just points out we've had a global civilization many, many times in the past with high technology that would just completely boggle your mind. And it's been covered over because we're always being reset. The Great Reset is an ongoing program that never stops. It's always going on. The other thing, too, to recognize that, again, when we look at the different faces of humanity, we come from many different places. So when we look at what we would call the races, which obviously have been blended to a great degree upon the planet here, there's different planetary, different stellar origins for many of these different races. And then at the same time, there's also been many genetic programs that have been underway to, again, take what is already there and make it a little bit more controllable, make it a little bit more manageable. And that is happening at this very day. And we're starting to recognize that it's always being revised. It's always being washed over. As we look at the Great Seal of California, and what do you got? You have somebody that might be a depiction of Amazon, but it's really done in a very Greco-Roman way. And, here again, they've changed the race. Oh, wait a minute. There's a little devil horns back there. Hey, what's the devil horn part there for? I mean, obviously California bears, gold, water, mountains, beautiful scenery, gorgeous state, wonderful, wonderful state, horribly run, wonderful state. But again, washing over the history. And this comes from a site called yesterland.com. And, this feels to me like this is the same artist. I didn't look into it because there's so many rabbit holes that opened up doing this video. And actually, this video was just created by the last video that you guys watched. And there's 2 other videos that are done that I keep pushing back because of I want to go kind of concurrent with the flow, so you guys are exposed to the line of thinking that we've been exposed to, and so that we could kind of go down the same rabbit holes at the same times. But this does feel like the Denver murals, doesn't it? I mean, the vibration, the frequency reminds me of the artist that did the murals at the Denver airport. And I don't know if it is, maybe it's not, maybe they just have similar style. Feels like it, though. And again, we feel into things. This is what we're going to be reclaiming, is our ability to feel into the truth. So encountering Amazonian warrior queen goddesses in California, which is an island, that's pretty interesting, is it not? So this over here is from stolenhistory.org. It was not until Father Eusebio Kino, a Jesuit, crossed the Baja California Peninsula, submitted a report with an accompanying map in 1705 that the idea of the island of California was called into question, because it was an accepted fact that California was an island. This was an accepted fact. Now in 1705, he went and he started to explore, and he found it wasn't an island. Maybe it wasn't an island anymore, because maybe just a handful of years earlier, there was that boom, that coming together of the 2 land masses. Kino's map was included in his influential report from 1705, published in Paris. His map was rich with new information about the Mer de la Californie. His view was not immediately accepted. It was only in 1746, 41 years later, when Fernando Consag, another Jesuit, we understand the power of the Jesuits, we understand the power of the Vatican, as far as an entity that we see, a structure, an organization that we see and we know about openly, there's nothing more powerful than the Vatican.
Mm-hmm. They definitely, and they rule with an iron fist. So anything and everything that is going to be going on in these days, including all of our politics, this has how it's been run this way for so long. The church has the final say. The church, they're the ones that everybody has to go to get to be granted anything, and this is still where we are stuck, with the church being the final word, and it's just I don't like it.
Well, again, this is all being unraveled, and even if we're not one of the more than 1 billion Catholics, again, there is around 1/3 of the people on this planet are Christians. And again, the Bible that we have comes out of the Catholic version originally, or does it? Is it all related to Shakespeare, who is really Francis Bacon? Again, secret insiders, the secret societies, again, which are controlled by the Vatican, and then the dark wing of the Vatican. Ultimately, there is still one of the Gigi on the planet that's alive, albeit probably not for too long. And when he's gone, the veil will be lifted even more. And what's interesting enough, we kind of have an idea who exactly he is, and it will blow your minds. And we will share that in another video upcoming. And hopefully that didn't ruffle too many high-level feathers, or if it did, we are grateful for the guidance, the wisdom, and the protection of the benevolent beings that are truly helping to expose everything that's going on. So, again, his view was not immediately accepted. And so, 1746, Fernando Consag, another Jesuit, sailed completely around the Gulf of California, and then it was accepted California was indeed not an island, so decreed by King Ferdinand VI of Spain in 1747. And again, that might have been, 40, 50 years after the big boom. Queen Califia was a beautiful brown-skinned Amazonian queen who ruled her queendom with Griffins, which again is associated with Lemuria. The Griffins were trained to eat male flesh to protect her people from the Euro-white American invaders. And now again, Cindy and I, obviously, we believe that bodies are vehicles, and yes, DNA does extend out into the etheric, but at the same time, bodies are vehicles, and it's just basically a vehicle to get around this 3D world. So, we don't view any one particular race as being higher than another. We feel that the divide and conquer is completely all about the controllers. This is how they control us, and they will put down one people for generations in order to raise them up, so they will attack the ones that put them down and just do this cycle over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they have no problems doing that. But ultimately, we all come here and we all get a spacesuit. And for any one person to pick on another because of what their spacesuit looks like, it's just super silly. It's ridiculous. And we're moving up in vibration where finally, thankfully, we're able to see above and beyond that. The day that we're able to look in and see someone's soul and see them for what they have done and not what they look like, that's going to be a very beautiful day, and it's going to be a strong signature that says, okay, we're evolving, we're getting somewhere, and I'm seeing that more and more. So I'm very grateful for that.
Now again, it could be also that the Jesuits found that it was still an island, and they wanted to keep that a secret. It could be. Now this person here believes that it maintained its status as an island up until the early 1800s, when the Great Flood of 1810, according to the natives, eliminated the water surrounding the island that provided protection to keep her people safe. She could also travel at will around the world. How could she do that? And she was even in Constantinople when Christianity was first founded in the 1500s in attempts to keep the zealot conquistadors at bay. So we could see there's a massive revisionist history. And yeah, there are people that do believe that Christianity was really created, again, by Francis Bacon. And that what we have as far as all these historical documents, which really what we have is a lot of fragments of different things. The dating is off, the way we date things is off. And it's all basically an illusion. And again, how could she go from California to Constantinople? How can she be Moorish? Now again, if we look to Istanbul, Constantinople, Istanbul, this is Turkey. And again, this is one of those areas where we have these massive underground dwellings for times such as perhaps the times that we're heading into, where humanity had to escape by going inside the earth and then coming out when it was safe again. And again, if we think Moors, we think Northern Africa. We think over in this area. But again, what we're talking about is California way over here. And again, this is going to bring into the picture another very, very interesting rabbit hole to go down, which is the Olmecs and the Olmec civilization, which will bring us over here and also perhaps end us taking us off into the Pacific. This is all very, very interesting, to say the least. Queen Califia, an Amazonian warrior, an island that was all women. That revisionist history. And what we get from Cindy is, again, if not her, she has off-planet roots, and maybe not too far, not too many generations back.
She has some very powerful abilities, and when Mike is doing the research, I'm over there getting visions, and one of the most powerful visions I was given of her is I was shown her face as the blue sky, and her hair was the clouds, and that indicates to me that she had connection with the sky being. She also had the ability to travel in ways that we can't even understand in today. We just don't get it. We don't think it's possible. And if anybody even suggests, well, somebody left their body and went over and met with somebody else, it's just super funny. But no, I mean, she did have connection with sky beings. So, and she is very powerful. Her energy is very long reaching.
Look at this. Griffins, Griffo de California, 1533. 1533, they were depicting these as if they were alive there in the hills of California. What do you pick up on this?
Well, obviously, it's something that someone has seen. I feel it's a very legitimate sighting of something, and then an artist's work with somebody explaining what they've seen. I don't get that there was a lot of them, but the ones that were there, it was understood at the time what they were for. They were definitely protectors, and they were highly trained, and they had like thoughts of us, when we think and we strategize and we are protecting our herd, they also protected those that they knew they were supposed to protect.
So if you look to Wiki, because again, Wiki is always going to want to correct us,
Yes.
and get us looking down the mainstream path, Califia, Califia, is the fictional queen, of the island of California, first introduced by 16th century poet Garci Rodriguez de Montalvo in his epic novel of chivalry, the Las Sergas de Esplandian, The Adventures of Esplandian, written around 1510. The California is a region of North America encompassing the U.S. state of California and Mexican states of Baja California and Baja California Sur take the name Califia and her kingdom. In the novel, she's a pagan warrior queen who ruled over a kingdom of black women living on the island of California. And, again, it gets into the story about raising an army of women warriors and sailed away from California with a large flock of Griffins so she can join a Muslim battle against Christians defending Constantinople. And in the siege, Griffins harm enemy and friendly forces, so they are withdrawn. It's interesting to see, again, the constant Wikipediaization of our world, isn't it not? Here is what you are told to believe. Don't ignore everything else. This is going to be the fact checker's version. So, again, it's the big thing is the fact that there's going to be more people, and there is more people that can do what Cindy can do. And you, too, can just feel into it and feel when something is off. So, again, we see a lot of people are aware of this. And I don't know how many of you guys were aware of this story. So, why? Why would you say, why would you go all the way into these times and think that you have a Moorish or Moorish person over in California in the quote-unquote new world, but it's not really new. I mean, there were already people here, there again. And, the number of people here, they always want to put down the number because they want to put down the significance of the atrocity in exterminating a people. The reality is there's a lot to people. And when you look at Mur, or Moor, ancient name for the original people of the earth, based on ancient teachings of the indigenous people of the Ouachita River Valley and its tributaries. The indigenous proprietary inhabitants of this part of the Americas recognize ourselves as Moors or Murs, right? Lemurian. Mu, mound builders of Mu. Interesting, isn't it not? Western His story labeled us as Ouachita Indians or Ouachita, and our indigenous Caribbean family of the Caribbean islands as West Indians, but the fact that we did not all migrate here from the subcontinent of India. We are the indigenous mound-building cultures, the ascendants of Mu, which is another word for earth. Our pre-Columbus, pre-American nations formed a harmonious empire of communities across the North and South America centered around pyramid and effigy mounds constructed of earth. And yes, we love and respect our ancient Indian family of the Ganges and Indus River Valley regions. These origins are home to the ancient Dravidians, yes. And when you look to the Dravidians, they are a very dark-skinned people, again, predate the lighter-skinned ones that came from the north typically, but then again, the whole Aryan invasion thing is a distortion too. You know, everything has been so intermixed, intermingled, distorted. It can be very, very difficult to sort it all out, especially if you're just going based on official documents, because again, the things that are the most telling get burned. They get taken from us. They get, cyber burned or physically burned. This again, Reichstag, we could go to the Library of Alexandria. All these things get wiped out because again, they're always giving us our history anew, time and time again. So these origins are home to the ancient Dravidians, Sutras, and indigenous Dalits, who are still marginalized in a caste system that has been institutionalized since pre-colonial times, but slowly eroding into justice for females and darker people of ancient indigenous Mauryan heritage. Our elders teach us that we are one people sharing one God with our indigenous brothers and sisters of Africa, Eurasia, Australia, and the Pacific Islanders of Melanesia, Micronesia, Polynesia, including Maui. Our ancestors teach us that Mu, pronounced Mu, like in a cow, is the indigenous name of our land. Mu is all matter, maternal purpose, divine matrimony, living, increasing, viewable life, procreation, effort for more. We are Mu. The most ancient people call ourselves Mur, Mutu, Muntu. One ancient word for the creator was Mungu. Mu is the root. Long before the names like America, Africa, Asia, or Europe, the Aboriginal humans called the land Mu. We are Moors. Moors. The universal titles Mr. and Mrs. and Madame et Monsieur are rooted in Mu. Mu, Ma, Mu, Mur, Mar, More, Mur, More, More. It goes, good morning. There's another twist on good morning. Good moo to you. Ancestors teach about the respect for more recent civilization, the more recent civilizations have for Mu. A Judean Christian symbol for Mu has been a golden calf or a cow with a sun disk. We shall see this demonstrated by the ancient use of the cow as a sacred symbol and the important role cattle played in early commerce, marriage dowries, and spiritual life. Even Abraham, or Abram, who later changed his name to Abraham, had Chaldean parents in the city of Ur who worshipped the sacred cow, Hathor. Later, when the followers of Moses lost faith while in the wilderness, they returned to the worship of what? A golden calf. And still, the murring beverage of choice is, of course, mom's milk or cow's milk. The Washita have never worshipped any animals, planets, nor man. We have faith in the Almighty Creator of heaven and earth. We believe in one love. So interesting, is it not, to see all these takes? Again, what we've seen and what I've seen in many, many comments is from people of the indigenous tribes of the planet that still have these stories that are passed on to them saying, yes, it's the first time I hear somebody talking about this, or, this doesn't get discussed often, but we have stories of this. Again, what we're getting is the conqueror's version, his story. So now we look to Moor and Moorish, and we see of relating to the Moors, of their culture, or of relating to or being a Spanish architecture of the 8th to 16th century, characterized by horseshoe arch and ornate decoration. So everything is constantly revised, as we're going to see. There is, oh gosh, there's revisions going on right now. They just redefined what it means to be a woman, and like Wiki, there's a new Wikipedia for woman now. And again, everything is distorted, everything is changed, and this is a depiction of an Olmec, which is another one that will go down. So, I mean, they even do reproductions of the Queen Califia story in the theater. And again, for me, not being a native Californian, though my father was, and Cindy did live in California, this was all new to me, honestly. I didn't know this at all. So this was all like a fun rabbit hole to go down. But then again, we all have our customs, and sometimes we might feel a little bit, out of the herd, so to speak, when we try to join in with the custom, but we just don't understand it because it's not really our custom, and it might even feel a little silly to us.
Mm-hmm. But everything is its own beauty. Everything has its own beauty. It is in the eye of the beholder, and the more you appreciate things, the more you're going to see the beauty in everything. And it just takes a little bit of effort to look around and say, no matter what the situation is, you can find the beauty in it if you're in a positive state of mind. But if you're in a negative state of mind, no matter how beautiful that thing was, you can find all the negativity in it. So it truly is up to us and where our heart is to see the beauty in things. It's up to us.
So they're going to tell you it was just a story. It was just a story. Well, the story is the official version. We recognize that we can't take anything they give us as the official version as truth. And typically we're better off going and looking in the opposite direction.
Absolutely.
Thanks again for your support on Patreon and Ko-Fi. We couldn't do it without you guys. Much love, God bless, and namaste.
Namaste.